Welcome to this tutorial. I'm solving some MCQ questions related to paper 1 of O-level physics. These questions are related to almost all the syllabus of the O-level physics, where the questions from first section of general physics, second section of thermal physics, then wave physics, then electricity and magnetism and nuclear physics are included in this tutorial. So total of 40 questions would be solved. Question number 1 says the diagram shows part of a ruler. The ruler is used to find the length of a nail. What is the length of the nail? So as we can see that the length of the nail is starting from 1 centimeter and it is ending at this mark of 3.7. So when we try to find out the length, we have to subtract 1 from 3.7. So we get an answer of 2.7 centimeters. Hence the correct option would be B in this MCQ. Okay, question number 2 says the mass of a full bottle of cooking oil is 1.30 kilogram. When exactly half of the oil has been used, the mass of the bottle plus the remaining oil is 0.90 kilograms. What is the mass of the empty bottle? So since half of the oil has been used here and the mass has decreased by 40.40 kilograms, so half of the oil has a mass of 0.40 kilograms, which means that full oil would have a mass of 0.80 kilograms, and the mass of empty bottle could be found when we subtract 0.80 from 1.30, so we get an answer of 0.50 kilograms. So here option B would be the correct answer. Question number 3 says a liquid has a volume of 100 centimeter cube and a mass of 85 grams. The density of water is 1.0 grams per centimeter cube. How does the density of the liquid compare with the density of water? So we are given with 4 options. Its density is higher than that of water, its density is lower than that of water, its density is same as that of water. It is impossible to say with only this data. So first we would be using these two informations and we would try to find out the density of the liquid. So density is found out using the formula density is equal to mass per unit volume, mass divided by volume. We have 85 divided by 100 centimeter cube. So it means that the density is going to be equal to 0.85 grams per centimeter cube. So it is obvious that it is lesser than the density of water. Water has a density of 1.0 gram per centimeter cube and the liquid has a density of 0.85 gram per centimeter cube. So option B would be correct here. Its density is lower than that of water. Next question says a car travels at various speeds during a short journey. The table shows the distances traveled and the times taken during each of 4 stages P, Q, R and S. So we are given 4 stages P, Q, R and S over here and the time taken for these stages. During which 2 stages is the car traveling at the same average speed? Now we are given with 4 options P and Q, P and S, QNR and RNS. To find the average speed, we would have to divide the distance divided by the time taken. So for P, we would divide 1.8 by 2. So we have a number of 0.9 kilometers per minute over here. For Q, it would be 3.6 divided by 2. So we have a number of 1.8. For R, we have 2.7 divided by 4. which is equal to 0.675, and finally for S we have 2.7 divided by 3, which is again equal to zero point 0.9 kilometers per minute. So it means that P and S have the same average speed, and during these two stages the car is traveling with the same average speed. The next question says a ball of mass 2.0 kilogram is traveling at a speed of 12 meters per second. It moves towards an object of mass 3.0 kilograms which is at rest. The ball hits the object and sticks to it. Which row gives the total momentum and the speed of both objects immediately after the collision? So to find the answer, we would be using the principle of conservation of momentum, which says total momentum before collision should be equal to the total momentum after collision. Momentum, as we know, that is the product of mass and speed. So for the momentum before collision, we have first mass with its initial speed, second mass with its initial speed. Their sum would be first mass, the final speed, the product of first mass and the final speed, the product of second mass and the final speed. So we have an object of 2.0 kilograms with a speed of 12. We have an object of 3.0 kilograms with a speed of 0 because it is at rest. And after collision, the mass remains the same, but the final velocity for both would be considered same because they stick to each other. So when an object hits another object and after the collision it sticks to other object, both of the objects have same final velocity after collision. So we have 24 equal to 5v, and hence 24 divided by 5 would give us 4.8 meters per second. So this is the value of the final speed, and if we want to find out the total momentum after collision, then that would be 2.0 into 4.8 plus 3.0 times 4.8 over here. Hence the total momentum after collision comes out to be equal to 24 kilograms meters per second. So it means that the third option for this question is correct. Moving on to the next one, it says a light aircraft stands at rest on ground. It stands on 3 wheels, one at the front and 2 further back. So this is the one front wheel and these are the 2 back wheels. Which point could be its center of mass? So center of mass cannot be here, not here, because the mass is concentrated in the front region over here, and it cannot be here at A because this region is too far front for having the center of mass. So the best region to have the center of mass is B. So B would be the correct option for this question. Question number 7 says a helicopter takes off from ground and rises vertically. It then hovers at a constant height above the ground. Which sequence of energy changes takes place during the gain in height? Chemical into gravitational into kinetic, chemical, kinetic, gravitational, gravitational, chemical, kinetic, kinetic, chemical, gravitational. So firstly, the chemical energy from the fuel would be converted into the kinetic energy of the helicopter, and when it starts moving it gains kinetic energy because it is gaining height. So this is the correct option for this part, where initially the chemical energy would be converted into the kinetic energy of the helicopter, and then when it starts moving and gaining height, it this energy would be converted into the gravitational potential energy of the helicopter. Next question, four people of equal weight on a bench use different routes to get the top of a sea wall. Which person produces the greatest average power? Person A runs across the beach, then climbs the ladder. So this is the first person who runs across the beach and then climbs this ladder, and the time taken is 8 seconds. Walks across the beach, then climbs the ladder. So second person from here walks across the beach and then climbs this ladder, and the time taken for this person is 16. Third one is runs up the slipway. So third person is running up the slipway and takes 5 seconds to, and the last one is which walks up the slipway in 10 seconds. So if we are talking about the power, power is given by the rate of doing work or the rate of energy transformed. So in this case, the work done would be equal to the gain of gravitational potential energy, which is same in all the cases because every person is climbing this wall. So they are trying to gain the same height. Secondly, the gravitational potential energy would be divided by the time. So for having the greatest average power, we need to have the least time so that the quotient of this division is largest. So when the denominator is smallest, the answer would be the largest. So hence part C of this question would give us the greatest average power in this case. The next question says the diagram shows two divers swimming in the sea and two divers swimming in fresh water. Sea water is denser than fresh water. On which diver is there the greatest pressure? So this is the first person, which is about 2 meters deep in sea water. This is the second person, which is about 6 meters deep in the sea water. Then we have another person, C, at a depth of 2 meters in fresh water. And then the last person is at a depth of 6 meters in the fresh water. So for having the greatest pressure, we need to have two things as large as possible. The pressure of a liquid is given by rho g h. So it means that pressure is directly proportional to the density. If density is higher, the pressure of the liquid is going to be higher. Similarly, pressure is also directly proportional to the depth in the liquid of the object. So whatever object is deeper in the liquid would experience the largest pressure or the greater pressure. So hence these two people or person, since their height, since their depth is not as much as these two have, so they cannot have the greatest pressure. While we compare B and D, we can see that fresh water has a lesser density while sea water has a higher density. So it means that option B would be correct in this option. The next question says a workman rolls a barrel of weight 2000 Newton up a plank of length 2 meters. So the barrel which is being rolled has a weight of 2000 Newton and the length it has to cover is 2.00 meters. And onto a lorry, the back of the lorry is 0.80 meters above the horizontal surface of the road. So the height of the lorry is given to be 0.80 meters. What is the work done? So we have to find the work done on the barrel against the gravity. Now we need to find the work done against the gravity. So the work done against the gravity would be equal to the gain of gravitational potential energy in this case, which is equal to mgh, and mg is equal to the weight of the object, which is given to be 2000, and the height it gained is 0.80 meters. So it means that total 1600 joules was done against the gravity. So the option B would be correct in this case. The next question says which statement about the pressure in a column of liquid is correct? So we are talking about pressure in a column of liquid, which is given by pressure is equal to rho GH. It acts only vertically downward. It increases if the column width increases. It increases with depth in the column. It is uniform throughout the column. So the correct option here would be C, that it increases with the depth of the column. As this depth increases, the pressure of the liquid column also increases. The next part says an airtight container holds a fixed quantity of gas. Its pressure and volume are measured on 4 occasions when the temperature is 20 degrees centigrade. The results are shown in the table. Which set of readings is incorrect? So we are given with the 4 options here. If we start with the least value, which is 60, and the volume for the 60 kilopascal pressure is 80, since these two quantities are inversely proportional, so if we try to convert this 60 into 80, we would be required to multiply this number such that it should be divided by 3 and then multiplied by 4 so that it becomes 80. Now the other quantity would get multiplied by the reciprocal of this fraction. So this becomes 80 and this one becomes 60. So it means that these two values and this pair of value is correct. Now when we try to convert 80 into 100, we need to divide it by 40 by 4 and then multiply it by 5 so that 80 converts into 100, which means that this quantity should be multiplied by 4 upon 5 because it is inversely proportional to pressure. So in this case, we see that we get the correct answer for volume, as the answer for pressure is 100. Now if we try to convert 100 into 120, we need to multiply this, first divide it by 5 and then multiply it by 6. So it means that the other quantity should be divided by 6 and multiplied by 5. Now for this conversion we get an answer of 120 for pressure, but the answer we get with this multiplication is 40 and not 36. So it means that this set of value is not correct because the pressure's value is not written to be correct over here. So we would encircle this option that this set of value is not correct. Okay, question number 13 says ice is trapped by a metal gauze at the bottom of a tube containing water. So we have ice over here, then this is the metal gauze, and water is boiling over here and heat is being provided to the tube at this point. The water is heated strongly at the top, but the ice only melts very slowly. Why does the ice melt slowly? Heat energy always travels upwards. Heat energy is more dense. Hot water is more dense than cold water. Metal gauze does not allow heat to pass through. Water is a poor conductor of heat. So the option here would be this D, because the water is a poor conductor of heat. That is why the heat transfer from top to bottom is a very slow process and the ice is melting very slowly. Rest of the options are not correct because metal gauze cannot prevent heat from transferring to ice. And similarly, hot water is not more dense than cold water. Cold water is denser than hot water. Similarly, the first option is also not correct. Heat energy always travel upward. This is not correct. It can travel any direction which has the temperature difference. So the heat always flows from the region of higher temperature to a region of lower temperature. The next part says diffraction waves hit barriers with different sized gaps. So we have a gap of 2 centimeter, again 2 centimeter. First the wavelength is 1, second the wavelength is 2, then third gap is 3 with a wavelength of 1, again 3 centimeter with a wavelength of 2 centimeters. The waves will diffract, their edges would be bended when they would go through the gap. In which diagram does the greatest spreading occur? So for the greatest spreading, the edges should bend the most, and they are done when we have a gap size which is comparable to wavelength. So the wavelength in part B is 2 centimeter and the gap is also 2 centimeters. So here the greatest bending would take place. So option B would be correct. If gap is greater than the wavelength, then the bending is lesser. But if it is comparable to wavelength, like the wavelength is 2 centimeter and the gap is also 2 centimeter, then the bending taking place would be the greatest. The next question says, an object 5 centimeter high is placed 2 centimeter from a converging convex lens which is being used as a magnifying glass. When the converging lens is used as a magnifying glass, then the object must be placed within the focal length. The image produced is 6 centimeter from the lens and is 15 centimeter high. The object was 5 centimeter and the image is 15 centimeter high. So it means that magnification is being done 3 times by the lens. What is the focal length of the lens? So in this question, the focal length cannot be 2 because it would mean that the object is placed at the principal focus, which is not the case here, because when the lens is being used as a magnifying glass, the object has to be within the focal length. Now, there are 3 more options, B, C, and D. For this, we can use a relation to find the focal length of the lens, which is that the 1 upon focal length is equal to 1 upon object distance and 1 upon image distance. The distance of object is 1 upon 2, and since the image is not real, it is a virtual image, so its distance would be taken as negative. Now the LCM would be 6 over here. We get a 3 minus 1, which is 2 upon 6 equal to 1 upon f. So the focal length would be 6 upon 2 equal to 3.0 centimeters. So this option, second one, would be correct here in this case. The next part says waveforms are shown on a cathode ray oscilloscope for a flute and a guitar playing the same note. The oscilloscope setting are same for both waveforms. So this is the waveform for flute and this is for guitar. What is the difference between the two sounds? If we consider the amplitude first, then the amplitude for both is the same. If we consider the wavelength, then the wave starting here completes here. So it takes 4 boxes, and the wave starting here completes here. It again takes the 4 boxes. So the wavelength is also the same. If we talk about the frequency, then we have 1, 2, and 2.5 waves. Similarly here 1, 2, and 2.5 waves. So frequency is also the same. So the thing which is different in both cases is the quality of the sound or the timbre of the sound. Next question says, a teacher wishes to show the production of electrostatic charges. She holds a rod and rubs it with a cotton cloth. A copper rod, a glass rod, a plastic rod, and a steel rod are available. Which 2 rods would be suitable to use? So metals in this case would not be suitable. So a glass rod and a plastic rod would be suitable here. The next question says, what is measured by the energy dissipated when a source drives a unit charge around a complete circuit? So an EMF is measured for the given statement, because EMF's definition is that it is the energy dissipated when a source drives a unit charge around a complete circuit. This phenomena is called the EMF of the battery or the power source. The next part says a circuit is set up as shown in the diagram. So we have a battery or a cell whose EMF is 3 volts. Then two resistances are connected in series in the circuit, and then we have an ammeter which is showing a current of 0.5 amperes. Assuming that the ammeter has negligible resistance, what is the value of this resistor R? So this could be found by using the relation of V is equal to IR, and R would be here voltage divided by the current. So 3 divided by 0.5 gives 6 ohms resistor in total. So the value of R would be total resistance minus the 1 ohm resistor. So answer is 5 ohms here. So this is the correct option for this part. The next part says the diagram shows the component of a lighter for a gas cooker. So we have a switch over here, two cells, and then there is a resistor, and this is enclosed in a casing. Which circuit diagram for this lighter is correct? So this diagram shows that there are two cells, one switch, and a resistor connected, and the connection of resistor is such that the resistor is connected in the circuit, and its circuit would be completed when this switch closes, and cell from one end is connected to the other part of the switch, and the positive of the cell is directly connected to resistor, and the circuit would be completed when this contact is completed. So the other diagram says that switch is between the first and the second cell, which is not correct. Both cells are directly connected. The third diagram shows that there are two resistors and one cell, which is again not correct. And the fourth diagram shows that the resistor is connected in parallel with the cell, and the switch is connected in the other loop, which is again not correct. So the first diagram is the correct diagram for this lighter circuit. The next part says which of these appliances is the most powerful that can safely be connected to the 240 volts main supply using a plug with a 3 ampere fuse. A 60-watt light bulb, a 100-watt light bulb, a 200-watt television, and a 500-watt heater. If we try to find the current for all these appliances, we would be using the relation that power is equal to the product of voltage and the current, and the current would be found when we divide the power with the voltage. So current for the light bulb would be 60 divided by 240, and it is 0.25 amperes. Similarly, for the 100-watt bulb, we have 100 divided by 240, so current would be 0.42 amperes. Similarly, for the 200-watt television, we have 200 divided by 240, so current in this case would be 0.83 amperes. And lastly, we have current equal to 500 divided by 240, so we have a current of 2.1 amperes. So this would be the device which could be safely connected with the 3 ampere fuse in the given scenario. The next part says a person uses 3 kilowatt electric fire for 2 hours and a 2 kilowatt heater for 4 hours. What is the total cost if the price of the electrical energy is 5 cents per kilowatt hour? So the total electrical energy used would be, when we multiply 3 kilowatt with 2 hours plus 2 kilowatt with 4 hours. So this would be the total electrical energy used multiplied by the cost per unit, which is 5.0 cents. So it would become 6 plus 8, which is 14 into 5. So 70 cents would be the cost of electrical energy, and D would be the correct option here. The next part says the diagram shows a coil in a magnetic field. So we have a magnetic field, north pole, south pole, and a coil placed in between these two poles. When the coil is part of a DC motor, what must be connected directly to X and Y? A DC supply, slip rings, soft iron core, split ring commutators. So the directly connected part is the split ring in case the coil has to act as a part of the DC motor. The next question says a small compass is placed beside a bar magnet. In which direction will the compass needle point when the compass needle is placed here? So we know that the magnetic field lines, they come out of north pole and they enter the south pole. So for this compass, the correct direction would be D, because the needle would be pointing like this at this place where it is placed, away from the north and towards the south. The next part says a metal rod XY is placed near a magnet and X is attracted when it is placed near to the north pole of the magnet and also when it is placed near to the south pole. So in both cases we have attraction when the end X is placed to the north and when it is placed near the south. How does end Y behave when it is placed in turn near to the two poles of the magnet? Rod is a magnetic material, and when we place Y near any end of the magnet, again the attraction would be experienced. So it would be showing the attraction when placed near North Pole or South Pole. The next question says when the potential difference across a piece of resistance wire is changed, the current through the wire also changes. The temperature of the wire is kept the same. Which graph shows the potential difference and current are related? How the potential difference and the current are related? So this would be the graph because it is a straight line passing through the origin, which shows that potential difference and current are directly proportional. So this should be the answer. The second graph is not passing through origin. The third graph is again not passing through origin, and part D is not showing the direct relation also. The next question says a student connects two lamps in the circuit shown. Which switches he must close to light both lamps? In order to light both lamps, the switch 1 must be closed and switch 3 must be closed. So when he closes the switch 1, the circuit is complete for lamp 1, and when this 3 is completed, the circuit is again completed for the second lamp also. So 1 and 3 would be the correct answer. The next question says a student makes 4 circuits. In which circuit are both lamps protected by the fuse? So in the first circuit, the fuse is connected in parallel, which is not going to protect these two lamps. In the second circuit, the fuse is connected with the one lamp, so it would protect it, but the second lamp is not going to be protected by this fuse. In the third circuit, again this lamp would be protected, but this lamp would not be protected. And in the last circuit, the fuse is connected in such a way that when the overcurrents flow through the circuit, it would disconnect it from both the lamps. So both the lamps would be protected here. So the last circuit would be the correct option. The next question says the diagram shows a solenoid connected to a sensitive voltmeter. Which of the following would give a zero reading on the voltmeter? Holding the magnet stationary inside the coil. Since there is no relative movement, the magnet is stationary inside the solenoid, so the voltmeter reading would be zero. Moving the magnet away from the solenoid, it would induce EMF, so it cannot be zero. Moving the magnet towards the solenoid, again it cannot be zero. Moving the solenoid towards the magnet. So whenever there is relative movement, the EMF is induced, but whenever the solenoid and the magnet both are stationary, there is no EMF induced. The next question says the diagram shows a transformer with an alternating voltage of 100 volts applied to the primary. So we have 100 volts applied to the primary and 40 turns are there on the primary. Secondary coil has 80 turns. What is the voltage produced across the secondary coil? We know that the ratio of number of turns is equal to the ratio of the voltage produced. So we have 40 upon 80, 100 upon V2. So V2 is going to be 100 multiplied by 80 divided by 40. So the voltage induced would be 200 volts. Double of the primary voltage would be induced. Which statement is correct? A fuse is included in a circuit to prevent current becoming too high. A fuse should be connected to the neutral wire. An electric circuit will only work if it includes a fuse. An earth wire is needed to prevent the fuse blowing. So the first statement is correct, that the fuse is included in a circuit to prevent the current becoming too high. When the current becomes too high, the fuse is melted or it trips and the current does not go through the circuit and damage the appliances. Three identical cells are connected in parallel to a resistor. What is the advantage of using three cells in parallel rather than using a single cell? So the biggest advantage is stated in the third option, that each cell takes longer to run down. The next part says when the flash on a camera is used, a charge of 1.5 coulombs flows through the flash tube in 0.0030 seconds. The average voltage across the flash tube is 3600 volt. What is the electrical energy supplied to the flash tube and what is the average power supplied? So we have the value of charge, time, and the voltage, and we have to find the electrical energy supplied and the average power supplied. So for power, we have the relation voltage into current. Voltage is 3600 and current would be charge divided by the time. So the answer is 1.8 into 10 raised to 6 watts. And if we try to find the energy, then the power should be multiplied with time. So 1.8 into 10 raised to 6 multiplied by the time would give us the value of 5400 joules. So it means that the values in the last option are correct. The next question says a straight wire carrying a current produces a magnetic field. Which diagram shows the correct shape of the field? So the current's direction in each wire is downward, and if we use the right hand grip rule, we know that the magnetic field is going to be circular around a straight conductor and it would be in the clockwise direction. So option D is the correct one in this part. The next part says which circuit has the voltmeter reading 7.2 volts. So in all these options we are given with a voltage or potential divider circuit where the output voltage could be found using this formula. So it should be the resistance where the output is being taken, and the denominator would have the sum of the resistances. So in the first case, we have the output voltage as 12 multiplied by 5 and divided by 8. So we have 15 upon 2, which is 7.5 volts. In this circuit, we have V is equal to 12 multiplied by 6 divided by 10. So we have 7.2 volts for this circuit, which means that this is going to be the correct answer. Similarly, if we calculate for this one, then V is going to be equal to 12 multiplied by 4 divided by 6. So this would give us a voltage of 8 volts, and the last one, voltage across 6 ohms resistor, would be the input voltage multiplied by 6 divided by 8. So this would give us a voltage of 9 volts. So we already know that part B was the correct answer. The next question says a 1 meter length of wire of cross-sectional area 0.40 millimeter square has a resistance of 2 ohms. What is the resistance of 0.50 meter length of wire of the same material with the same cross-sectional area of 0.80 millimeters square? So we know that the resistance is directly proportional to length and inversely proportional to the cross-sectional area. So since the length is being halved, the resistance would also become half. The length initially was 1, then it became 0.5. So the resistance value, which was initially 2, would become 1.0 ohms. Similarly, the area initially was 0.40 and it is being doubled. So when the area doubles, the resistance halves. So it means that because of length, it would be halved. So it would become 1.0 ohms, and because of area, it would again half. So it would become 0.5 ohms. So A would be the correct option here. The next question says the diagram shows a circuit. So we have a circuit over here where an ammeter must be connected to measure the smallest current. So we are given with 4 points. If we connect an ammeter here, it would give the total current flowing through the circuit. If we connect in this branch, then the current flowing through 10 ohm resistor would be measured. If we connect across this point, then the current flowing through 20 ohm resistor would be measured. Since these two resistances are in parallel, so current would be divided, and the branch having least resistance would have the higher value of current, and the branch having larger resistance would have the lesser amount of current. If we connect the ammeter over here, again the total current would be measured. So the smallest current would be flowing through this 20 ohm resistor, and the ammeter should be connected across C over here for this part. The next question says which travels in a straight line across a magnetic field. So we have gamma rays which have no charge and they travel straight through a magnetic field. The next question says in the treatment of brain cancer, a patient's head is enclosed in a helmet containing a number of radioactive sources. The radiation from each source is directed towards the cancer. Which nuclide is most suitable for these sources? So we cannot use beta and gamma for this treatment because they cause more ionization, and the source with gamma radiation is most suitable here. The next question says a nucleus of element cobalt may be represented by this symbol. So the proton number is 27 and nucleon number is 59. What is the structure of the nucleus? So we have 27 protons and 32 neutrons. So number of neutrons could be found when we subtract number of protons from the nucleon number, which are equal to 32. So part A is representing the structure of the nucleus. So the tutorial ends here with this question.
We try to explain complex concepts in simple language and with effective examples. If you like the video and the way we explain the subject, consider liking this tutorial, commenting on it and subscribing to our channel and press the bell icon, so that you stay updated and get notified when we upload more videos. Thanks for watching.